Hey there, welcome back to Let's Suffer Together. I'm Suffer back with another Noita video, and today we're going to be taking a look at some of the best and worst, in fact all of the perks in Noita, including the new updates that were moved over from the beta branch into the main branch, and rank them in order of superiority or inferiority in Tier Maker's perk list. And we've got quite a few of her. Scrolled, that's a lot of perks right there. So we're going to start off with the top line. I'm going to be picking and choosing at random just which ones I want to talk about first. And firstly, one of my absolute favorites, the All-Seeing Eye. This allows you to remove all of the shroud from the game, apart from one or two areas. In fact, there's only one area on the first floor on the right hand side that I know it doesn't remove automatically. In the third floor in the dark caves, it removes that, so you're going to have a little advantage there. Removing all the shroud in the game, darkness is one of the biggest killers in the game, not knowing what is in the distance. It's one of the creepy mechanics of the game where it hides things that are in the distance, or you just can't see around corners. As soon as you move around a corner, most of the shroud for that corner dissipates relatively slowly. You don't get to see everything in the distance, and as a solid perk, being able to remove all the shroud in the area, that is for survival and knowing what's ahead of you. I can't rate this highly enough. To see what's in the distance so you can plan ahead a lot quicker means you need less reaction time. You can make better decisions moving forward, in front and behind, so offensively and defensively. All-Seeing Eye for me is one of the staple perks that just allow you to kick ass in the game. It allows you to find ones quicker, allows you to assess threats, clear entire areas by, you don't even need to fight sometimes. You can just move around obstacles safely because you know what's in the distance, you know what is in your entire screen now. Of course you can't see outside your screen, but hey, you can't expect too much from a perk. But All-Seeing Eye, I don't know whether to put it in the S or the A's, because removing the entire shroud from the game as a mechanic, you're still gonna, it doesn't really allow you to become stronger as a Noita. It doesn't make your wands better. It doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't give you more HP. It just removes that mechanic from the game. But I think for the power of it, I'm going to leave it a day. For one, this is going to be a dynamic tier list, so I think if I have made a mistake, or however the list grows, we're going to be changing it if I see it needs to be changed. We'll get the hearts out the way. Extra HP, 50% extra HP from the current HP you have. For this little one, there's two different ones. You've got the plus one, which gives you extra double HP when you get any HP pickup, from 25 to 50 for the orbs or random hearts in the game. Whew. But firstly, 50% extra HP when you pick this up as a perk for your current HP. Better to find this later on than earlier on, or if you find this perk, one of the best things to do with it is go into the current floor, find as many HPs as you can, come back up to the Holy Mountain after you found every HP, and then get a bit of a extra bonus HP after you've cleared the next floor that you find this on. Solid perk. Again, HP is one of the biggest kind of resources in the game. You're going to be wanting to build that if you want a good little Noita, and highly rate this. Again, HP can just disappear. It doesn't matter how much HP you have sometimes. If you're not building correctly, then, or you make a classic mistake like jumping into an acid or lava bath, this could save your life, but sometimes HP doesn't matter. Sometimes an entire mob of enemies will come around. Like HC Patrol, for instance. Two big guys and a load of little guys. If they stun lock you and you can't do anything, when you get hit you lose your levitation, of course. And it just melts your HP away from the game. And you die. But dying is a classic experience in Noita. But to be building your HP, it's a classic resource you want to be building as well. And there's plenty of opportunities in this roguelike game to build your HP. And this is what you're going to want to involve in that little repertoire of finding orbs, finding extra HP pickups. So I'm going to put this at a little... At the moment, I'm going to put it at a B. Again, it's beautiful. HP is king. Of course, playing well is king, but if you can't do that, then pick up some HP. Hey, I think it's all good. Now we're going to go to one of the funnest little perks, a little bit of glass cannon. It puts your HP down to 50, gives you 5 times the amount of damage, gives you huge explosion radius. I think it's 5 times the explosion radius, or I could be wrong on that, but it's huge. Absolutely huge. The detriment, obviously, you're at 50 HP. And if you're, say you've got explosion immunity, fire immunity, and just knocking about with 50 HP, you might get lucky, and if you're clever, you might survive with a bit of a glass cannon. Dangerous, though. However, immensely fun. The explosions you cause... Say you fire a nuke with a glass cannon and you're berserked, the game will pause for about 5 seconds thinking about how this explosion is going to impact the game. That thinking time for the game always makes me chuckle and laugh. And I want to rate these perks, I should say, before I start rating any more. We're going to be rating on a few different criteria, how it affects you, positively and negatively. How it affects the entertainment of the game as well, because I think that's important. And I think those 2 criteria alone would make a good perk tier list. But glass cannon, the favourite of a few people I know, in a way, because that entertainment it provides. The explosions, the chaos. However, the lack of HP really does knock it down for me personally. Again, I'm trying to keep my personal feelings out of this in a way, but bring my experience into it. You know what I mean? Remain impartial. And try and bring other people's opinions I know into this as well. So I'm going to put glass cannon as a solid C, because I personally think it's very detrimental to a run, especially very early on. Well, later on as well, when you say you've managed to rack up a lot of HP. You just lose it all, go down to 50. That 5 times damage, while it will protect you by just sheer damage output, have you tried not getting 50 HP in this game knocked off? It's seriously difficult. Even in the new boss fight with the shield, that is incredibly difficult. But for the entertainment value it brings, I'm going to put it at a C, because I would put it at about a D or E for survivability, or how it impacts the game. In fact, just for the explosions, I want to put it at a B, but that's a tricky one, because I'm not just looking at it and thinking that it's a dynamic tier list with the heart there. I want to put it above, but it's a controversial one for tier lists, I'm thinking, because the overwhelming power it can bring, but the overwhelming danger it brings also, I think it needs to be slap bang in the middle. Moving on. Telekinetic kick. I am, if I do say so myself, and I'm not trying to honk my own horn here, but beep beep, one of the best Noita footballers in the game. Now, this is a new way of kicking your footballs all over the place, to impact enemies, to throw tablets, to throw anything in the game that is maneuverable. What you do, you press the kick button, looking in the direction of a rock or tablet or whatever is going to be thrown. It zooms that item in towards you. You then kick again, and it releases it with a lot of velocity. And this can be used to protect you. You can use bits of ice, bits of rocks, especially the bigger ones, as shields. It covers you from the enemy, allowing you to then throw it at them to kill them. So it offers protection, it offers an offensive. So you've got both defensive and offensive covered with telekinetic kick that you don't have with your regular kick. Now, it is quite difficult to get good at kicking in the game, to actually make it good offensively, and kicking defensively doesn't really exist. So telekinetic kick, I think that's a solid A. I think it's going to change once we learn how to properly, fundamentally bring it into our builds. As a very new perk, all of the Noitas I know are slowly building into their repertoire, learning how to play it in the various playstyles we all have. But already, the entertainment value of this telekinetic kick is huge. It's unparalleled in a sense, because kicking has always been a fun part of the game, but this brings it to an entirely new level. And moving on to critical damage, a nice bit of crit. I think it's 15% extra crit. I could be wrong in the amount, but it's definitely a nice little chunk of extra crit. not much to say about it in terms of just... There is very little extra entertainment value we're looking at with crit. It's just nice extra damage. If you want to give yourself a little bit of extra punch. I think, again, it's middle of the road, classic C. It's not great, it's not bad though. And it's one to always consider, because crit shows up quite a bit. I don't know if perks have rarity. I don't know in the RNG of the game, when you go into the Holy Mountain, if you are more likely to see certain perks than others. I just don't know. But I do see crit quite a bit, and it is one of those that crit is 5 times extra damage. So think about that. It's not just like double damage, triple damage, 5 times. So if you pick this up, then you're going to be doing that 5 times damage, a lot more one-shotting or two-shotting enemies. And it's going to be, it could save your life. It could literally change a situation that would have killed you before. So, can't rate it badly. Can't rate it too high, though, because it is very, very limited. Moving on to an extra footballing perk. I should have done telekinetic kick and this one together, but boop! The old little footballing perk. The extra kick. The yeet of the foot. Allowing you to kick super hard. Again, very limited. It doesn't vastly improve. Like telekinetic kick, your kicking ability. It's not vast. I mean, it's good. It allows you to kick with more ferocity and velocity, and damage from kicks and damage from things that are thrown is all based on velocity. So it allows you to essentially, if you like to kick things around and kill by kicking, hey, this is one for you. But very limited in its use. I'd put it probably below a crit. Again, it's just too limited in what it can achieve. It's nice. Say you're doing an Eastworld, Westworld kind of run, where you're going parallel worlds and you're picking up all sort of perks. This is one for you. There is, I think these stack. I think you can get more and more and just end up getting the fastest kick in the West. But on its own, as a single, you'll want to be picking up other things, even a crit. Not Glass Cannon, because again, Glass Cannon is an absolute run changer. Glass Cannon is kinda not to be compared, in a way, if you feel what I mean. But, hey, I think, looking at Glass Cannon, I think for entertainment value, Glass Cannon has a lot more than the extra kick of yeet. I can't remember it. Sorry, I can't actually remember its proper name. Oh, what was it? It's some... I'll think about it. But anyway, going on to the extra heart. 25 HP is the usual HP you get normally from orbs or regular health pickups. Is it never skip leg day? It is. It's never skip leg day. Hey, we got there in the end. But from 25 to 50 HP every time you pick up an orb or healing drop, oof, that'll change fundamentally the amount of HP you have throughout a run. Double HP? I mean, think about how much HP you find throughout a run, and then figure, if you got double, how much extra potential you're going to have in that run to survive and make mistakes. I don't know whether it's on the same level and quick change as the regular heart, because this in a Holy Mountain, this one, the regular 50% HP increase allows you that big chunk. This, you have to work with, you know? You have to go out and hunt those extra orbs, meaning you've got to put work in for this, which, hey, if you're heading down, you're going to be able to do, but it's not instant. Again, that might change. I might have to slot it on, but I think the extra chunk has been a staple of my runs and my experience for quite a while. And especially later on in the game, this allows you to survive those harder areas, jungle, vault, the art, even the boss fight. While this one, you have to get quite early to have any substantial change, so that's why I'm putting it in C, and I hope you can understand that. The extra life. Ooh, that's a tricky one, because an extra life is an extra life. You don't get back to full health. I think it gives you 100 HP. It definitely gives you a chunk of HP. It's not like 1 HP survival. It's not like saving grace. But the extra life is an extra life. It gives you a few frames of protection, I think, and then you start taking damage again. I could be wrong in that, but it feels like you get those few frames to survive. Whenever you die at the end of the game, spoilers, it seems to slow down. It doesn't seem to kill you right away once it's activated. So that's why I say that. Very nice. An extra life is an extra life. Again, it's not game-changing. It's not making your Noita stronger. It's not entertaining you anymore. But I think that's a solid C. I think the extra heart, at minimum, is going to give you an extra 50 HP right away. Say this just gives you an extra 100 HP, this extra life. Then very soon, this is going to outpace it. This is going to start giving you 100 plus HP, the extra heart. That's why I put it so high, because it's the potential it can go to. But this extra life, it's a nice safety net. It's bang in the middle for me. Invisibility. Now, this changes the way you play the game. If you take invisibility and you use it as a strat, then think about this. You're heading into very dangerous territory, not killing anything, because if you shoot, then you get revealed. You're no longer invisible, and you'll be under attack. One of the best ways to play this is to get into a good area and kill things with your invisibility. Killing as you go, making sure you don't get surrounded. However, if you want to maintain invisibility throughout a run, throughout entire biomes, then you might have a problem. That if you get goop on your cape, that you're going to be revealed. And then, without having dealt with any of the enemies, you're going to be surrounded. There's been a few really hairy times on stream where we've, oh yeah, completely forgot. Follow me on twitch.tv/let's suffer together. Hey, forgot that one. But, where we play a lot of Noita, by the way. But invisibility. You're going to find yourself surrounded quite a bit. But the entertainment value of bobbing around invisible is... it's great. I really enjoyed the kind of Metal Gear Solid vibe, you know, get your solid sneakers on and go sneaking, finding all the ones, finding all the HP. Offers very good protection and defensive capability. And the way it changed the games and makes it entertaining for me, I put it as a solid B. Offers as much protection as increased health, in my opinion, so I think it's a safe slot in the B section. No S's as of yet, but I'm going to bring one over from the side you can't see, because this is going to be our first S tier. I think we'll all agree that melee immunity offers the most amount of protection from nearly all the immunities. The amount of enemies that do melee damage, and the fact it kind of makes a lot of enemies, including irritating enemies, from the first to the last biome, just redundant. You can essentially have pets following you around the entire game that can't do damage to anymore, especially in the later stages in the last area and the jungle, where a lot of flies, a lot of bigger enemies just do tremendous amounts of melee damage. Now, it doesn't stop projectile damage, but I still put it in the S tier, just for that solid chunk of removing a threat. And because I think melee damage is one of the biggest threats apart from projectile damage, without a projectile damage immunity, this is the best thing you're going to get in terms of protection for yourself. So, I think solid first S tier there. Moving on to Living Life Dangerously. Now, this is a new perk. We've been got in the most recent update that when you go below 25 HP, this gives you a big boost in damage. Now, I thought this was below 25% HP, and I thought that's amazing. I think it's 3 times damage you're able to get from this, but it's below 25 HP, which I think makes this quite a redundant perk. A lot of the new perks have diluted the perk pool in a way, which means, you know, it's going to be harder to get the S tiers, the A tiers, the B tiers. While I would put this one as a solid E. I think it's not a waste to pick up, because it doesn't directly harm you by picking up. You're always going to get that advantage when you're below 25 HP, and in a crisis situation. But I'd rather take everything else that's above at the moment. And it's one I haven't really messed around with. I assume, and have read on the wiki, that Glass Cannon and this work very nicely in combination. They do stack. This can stack up to 3 times. but they have an interaction where they can stop each other stacking a lot. I think you can stack glass cannon once in all situations, but you can only stack this once if you've picked up glass cannon. I think you can stack it 3 times otherwise, so you can multiply that damage you get from it. Maybe stacking this is the way forward, but until I've seen the actual use of that being productive, I kind of have to put it as an E, because it's just not that game-changing. It's not as entertaining as glass cannon, so I think it loses a few ranks for that. And as a new one, maybe I'll come back to this list someday and have a re-rank when I get more experience with it. Another relatively new one, Levitation Trail. As you levitate, you leave a trail behind you that damages the enemy. Very good with homing. The trail homes in on enemies if you've got homing perk, but on its own, very lackluster. Doesn't really do much for me. It just leaves a trail, and that trail doesn't last that long. I think each little dot from the levitation does 3 damage, so it's not amazing damage either. That's another solid E for me. These new perks, newish perks again, they're diluting the pool in my opinion. And ooh, which one? Oh, Worm Detractor. Make worms go away. This is quite nice, because in the Holy Mountain you have a worm crystal which attempts to keep worms away from the Holy Mountain. Now, if you've got this as well, I assume, and these are hard to gain experience for, because say you've got Worm Detractor, you never really know how well it's working, if you know what I mean. You never know what doesn't happen. You know, if you pick it up, worms probably aren't going to be coming around you, but I've had this, and worms have actually come near me, so it's not perfect by any means. It's going to keep those worms out of the Holy Mountain, though, you'd feel. Generally, it's alright. I'd put it as about a D, I think, next to the kick. I think it's nice to have. I don't think it's going to be absolutely game-changing. No, worms can take you out. They can absolutely end runs, especially on long runs if you go into hell, or the sky, and stuff like that. But we come to its opposite number. Worm Love. There is only one reason, in my opinion, to take Worm Love. That is, if you've got melee immunity, and you want to ride a worm, you can ride worms. Melee, because they're a melee damage only creature. If a big worm comes to you, you just stand there, and the worm will try and eat you, but it'll eat the terrain around you, and then it'll slowly work its way downward, picking up pace until you're riding a worm going down pretty damn fast. So that is quite fun. So I'm not going to rate it an F, because F is for the absolute useless perks, in my opinion. I think it's a D. You're not going to want worms attracted to you. There's very little reason for it. Unless, the only other reason I can think is if you've got melee immunity again, because having worms around you is just dangerous. Just dangerous. We like to live dangerously here at LST, but, you know, when it's safe to do so. Now, the worms will go after enemies as well. If you've got melee immunity, maybe you're calling upon your worm brothers to kill everybody else around you. So, you are going to crush a Holy Mountain, though. You are going to get Steve angry with you if you take Worm Love. That is guaranteed. If you stick around in a Holy Mountain too long, well then, you're a bit screwed. And I'm going to pull a little one cheeky from the other side. Look at this popping in from the side here. Oh, edit ones everywhere. In the game, you are limited to where you can edit your ones. To the Holy Mountains, the space in between the biome where you can relax, pick up some HP, wand refresh, some shop items there, and the perk. You are limited to editing your wands there. If you take this, you can edit your wands everywhere. The strongest feature of the game allows you, with your 4 wand slots, to be so much more versatile, so much more deadly in what you can pick and choose from, even the crappy ones. You know, you come across a really crappy wand in a biome, but all your wands are already slotted in with the 4 wands you've got. They're nice. You don't want to change them. You're not going to take that crappy wand with a pretty damn good bit of magic on it. With edit wands everywhere, you can pick up the wand, take the magic off, put the wand back on the pedestal, put the magic in a favourable wand situation. Entirely changes how the game is played as well, and or the extra entertainment value of just being able to edit and move on the fly. It does change how you think as you play the game. It's just an S tier all around. There is no comparison to edit wands everywhere. Kind of like there's no comparison to melee immunity. And there's not much needed to be said about it apart from the fact that versatility is going to be something you hunt out all the time as soon as possible. Every time you see it, apart from certain types of runs like no-hit runs, you're going to be on this like a car bonnet, you know? And one pretty much everyone takes all the time. Vampirism allows you to heal by drinking blood. I've heard this has got better. Drinking blood, you used to have to drink about like 20 liters of blood to get a few HP back, but apparently this has increased in value. Never really got into it or used it myself, but I don't see it as absolute garbage tier. It's another nice perk to take if you fancy it. Now, the introduction of the stomach system, where you can drink too much, I don't know how it affects that, so that's something, again, if we ever come back to this list, I might have to re-establish and re-evaluate how good this is. But I think this is possibly another D, where it's kind of alright. Actually, it might even be an E, because I'm looking at the old levitation, where it's doing something, but that something is very little, you know? Kind of like this has got a use. It's not outright bad, because it's got a combination effect. Other stuff I'm going to be talking about, well, like, that's going to slot in the Fs, I don't really feel has a combination effect. Like, this combines with glass cannon. Vampirism can link in with this one, more blood, you know? So, hey, it's not so bad. I'm stuck between the D and the E on this. No idea, to be honest, but I think, because I've never used it in my own personal experience, they have improved it themselves. NOLA Games have made you able to get more HP from Vampirism. I don't know if it's a D, I really don't, but I'm going to put it in E because that's just how I personally feel about it. But more blood allows you to extract more blood from the enemies when you kill them or hurt them. Same goes for yourself, you will produce more blood as well. This can go wrong. You can drown yourself. You can, in certain situations, if you have freezing field, you can get stuck in place because you're producing too much blood. That blood is instantly freezing. However, if you're bleeding, you will instantly get blood on your cape, you know? And you will get crit damage from that blood on your cape. With a cape system allowing you to get certain benefits from certain liquids on your cape, blood isn't the worst. Again, I think it's a nice one to have. Has a few detriments though, so it might be pushed down to an E in that. But I don't think the detriments are too high. It's one I can always take and feel not too bad about. I don't feel the detriments of more blood coming that harsh. Like, it's not, you're not going to drown too easily. There's going to be a lot of blood, but that blood can actually come in handy. If you kill a lot of enemies in a certain area, that blood can block the enemies from shooting you. The enemies get kind of stuck in the blood or the liquids. It's quite interesting, especially Hisi. They have a fascination about getting stuck in blood. If you're using fire as well, enemies will try and dip themselves in any liquids, try and put themselves out and get stuck in it maybe, and enemies can't shoot that well through liquids, so it's got a few benefits here and that. Ooh, the old fire immunity. It's exactly what it says on the tin. The cape still technically gets set on fire, but you receive no damage for it. Like, you'll see it says blocked, but you see a cape kind of take 0% fire. It's really weird that it just doesn't kind of totally remove it. You still feel the vibrations for your controller. I play on controller. Everybody calls me crazy, but I feel alright with it. It's a solid day. It's not gonna... You know, fire can be one of those things that is everywhere. I feel like you take more melee damage for a run than you would fire. It really depends how much overall HP you've got, in my opinion. Because, like with Toxic... Get these out of the way. These are kind of inextricably linked. The poison and fire both get removed by spraying yourself with water or dunking yourself in liquids. They both do percentage-based... Well, no, Toxic does percentage-based damage. I think fire also does percentage-based damage. But they kind of present differently. Poison is tick, while this is a very constant... Fire is a very constant tick. But they're both just as valuable as each other. I feel I'd have a hard time picking between these. But both of them have such value in removing an entire problem from the game. Maybe even toxic is better because it allows you to dunk yourself in toxic's liquid to get rid of other stuff on your cape. It essentially turns toxic into water. But the fire makes oil safe as well, so you know, you kind of got balance between the two. They're very inextricably linked. Moving on to one of the more dangerous perks we will ever come across, Teleportitis. When you get hit, you have a chance to be teleported. You do receive a large amount of damage immunity. I think it's 75% damage immunity. I might be wrong on the exact figure there, but it's very high. However, being teleported around can put you in the lava, it can put you in the acid, it can put you in so many dangerous situations. However, that dangerous situation, you are likely to be teleported away from again. This has value, it's not entirely dangerous. The problem is the boss fight is surrounded by lava, so you're very likely in a boss fight to get hit, meaning you're very likely to be teleported in the boss fight, meaning you've got a super high chance of being punted right into very deep lava. It's an E for me. It's far too dangerous for the damage resistance you get. It's a little bit fun. It's useful in speedruns. However, it's just not one that is... You know, it never really comes into play on a sensible run. Now, one I absolutely adore, but causes me several problems. Homing perk. The homing perk homes in on enemies with your shots. However, if you're using black holes and you're expecting those black holes to function well, because they'll yeet themselves to the closest enemy, causing erratic black hole behavior, hey, you make some erratic holes, which is sometimes a good thing. However, the homing shots, when you're first starting out in the game, you should be hunting this out, using Bubble Spark or any fast-firing rate of fire wand to just dominate the enemies with homing. This homing combined with bouncy is one of my personal favorites. I think it's a solid A for what it can help you achieve, especially early game. Even as you become more and more experienced, I would rate it as high as all these, you know? It doesn't... As a controller player as well, my accuracy is limited. On a controller, you only have... Your reticule goes around in a circle, equidistant. It's not far away from you, but I can't look at the entire screen with my cursor like a mouse and keyboard player can. So having this can be quite nice in that terms of long-distance shooting accuracy. Save your life a lot. You can just fire into the distance and know you have a high percentage chance of targeting something. Even close up as well, depends what you're shooting. Now bombs home as well, so it gains even more value. And danger, but that danger you'll get used to. You'll sort yourself out with it. Explosion immunity. Not as linked as fire and toxic, but explosions can be deadly. Explosions can take you out like that, you know? Just instantly. 1 second you're there, 1 second you're gone. If you remove explosion damage, whew, well then, I think you pretty much remove another thing from the game that can harm you. Not as... Actually, explosion might be as good as melee immunity. Because a lot of enemies, especially later game enemies, a lot of their projectiles are linked with explosive damage as well, so especially the pyramid boss. And that type of shot, Steve, for instance, the God's Guard, in the Holy Mountain if you anger the gods. So, I'm going to put... I think that's a solid S tier. I think it... Because it removes one of the more deadly insta-kills from the game, and one of the biggest chunks of damage enemies can do to you with explosive damage from projectiles, and the fact it allows you to use holy hand grenades, nuclear weapons. If you're using nuclear weapons, please watch the roof. You can't stop falling rocks from hurting you, so you'll always have to watch out for that with nukes, but you can use holy hand grenades safely. You might get burnt, but if you have the old fire damage, then you're sorted with that, aren't you? But again, it's just a powerful tool to help you, again, combine with other things. Say you've got homing explosives. It makes it perfectly safe for you to use. Ooh, what are we moving on here? Wand Experimenter allows you to take 23 HP every time you pick up a new wand and fire it. It's, again, a very new perk. not exactly looking for this one anytime I go into the Holy Mountain. It doesn't restrict you, I don't think. I don't think it stops you editing. I just think every time you pick up a new wand, you get a heal. And I think that's the limit of it. I think it's about 23 HP you pick up. Healing is good. I think it's another solid E. I don't think it's detrimental. I just think there's so much more important stuff to be picking up. But if it's the only thing out of, say, the E's, it might be one of the more powerful ones to pick up. Oh, and I want to move on from this one quickly because I don't have too much experience with it. Maybe, again, we'll come back to this tier list and reassess and reevaluate. But at the moment, solid E. Who needs healing anyway? Just, you know, rush to the Holy Mountain, get that full heal, and you'll be fine. Now we've come to one of the more super powerful new perks we've been given. Infinite Spells makes all limited spells, apart from Black Hole, Matter Eater, and there's a few others. Well, one or two others that don't go unlimited, but makes literally nearly all limited spells infinite. That's just superb. Just super fun. Can change an entire run in how it feels. Allows certain builds that were impossible before to be possible. I think it's an S tier. I think, again, for entertainment value, for what you can achieve with this, how it can impact your run, for experimentation, for potential building, you're going to love this one. It allows you to go beyond what was possible in the regular run. Even with edit, you know? Like, you could edit yourself on new limited spells when you run out of a spell on your wand. Say you had some spare in your inventory. But unlimited just makes it nice and clean, you know? There's a lot of things you're going to be using in combination with each other. And unlimited, say you've got unlimited homing with edit wands, then that's one of the, you know, greatest starts for a great potential build. Then you start going out and hunting down wands and hunting down some good stuff. Ooh. Our first F. Edit wands nowhere. Bans edit, you know, it's removing the strongest. I think you heal when you pick up a new wand. Oh no, it forces you to use your starting wands. Well, as soon as you pick this up, any wands you have are most likely going to be the most powerful, depending how late you pick or early you pick this up. But no, do not do this to yourself. Do not remove one of the most powerful features in the game, which is editing wands. Even if you're just stuck in the Holy Mountain, you know? I mean, why would you do that to yourself? Slime Blood stops you being slowed down if you are in goop. Also offers a hidden projectile resistance of, I think it's like 30%. It's nice, middle of the road. It's awesome. I like it. It's a solid beat. It's as good as taking on extra HP for that hidden projectile resistance. Because as we were saying before, there's very little projectile resistance in the game. Now we're moving on quick. And Greed? Greed is nice. Having extra money allows you to buy stuff from the Holy Mountain. Allows you to perk reroll. I think it's a solid C. Again, money is cool. You're going to have to hunt down that money pretty damn quick because it disappears. But each chunk is worth double, so definitely one that is... again, it's nice, just like crit. To add a nice little extra something to your game. It's just nice, you know, it's pretty cool. You can't argue with a bit of sustainability in your cash flow. Just as you can't complain having extra crit, you know, it's superb. But it is limited, you know? You can only buy so much. Ooh, the little shield, the little projectile shield. I mean, we're talking about projectile resistances. This is one that can offer sustained projectile resistance just by blocking the shot in the first place. I think it's, again, on par with the old Slime Blood there. I don't see why it protects your HP. Right, here's my theory. Protecting your HP is much like picking up extra HP, so I think it has the kind of same value as all these three. Like, they're all quite similar in a way. Boomerang shot can be used, but to have every shot you do boomeranged That's a solid F. You're going to hit yourself so hard in the face that you're going to regret pricking that up. Why would you ever want to boomerang anything anywhere? Leggy Mutation turns your levitation, essentially, into long spider legs. Now, if you're touching a wall with those spider legs, you can have infinite climbing ability. It's no longer levitation. However, there are a lot of areas in the game that are large open spaces and you can't levitate around, causing you to be very vulnerable, hopping about on the ground. I think it's a solid F, absolutely. And we're bringing this little hidden perk in as well, Leggy Mutation, at the same time, because they're very similar. Leggy Mutation is just legs instead of spider's legs. You find it. Spoilers. You find a Leggy Mutation chest where a chest will spawn legs. You've got to kill it. It will drop the Leggy Mutation perk. And, hey, that's that. Bombs materialized. Now, this has grown on me. The reason I used to not enjoy it as much, I never saw the need to be able to throw bombs out of my inventory. Now, I'm going to put it as a solid B in my opinion, because I have learnt to love and respect bombs materialized. As you can see on the little icon, the bomb into the... You know where your potions are? Then the tablets are? It allows you to put a bomb in there and throw it outside of a wand. So you don't need your wands. You can just throw it out your inventory if you've got it selected. Right. Here's the strat. If you've got infinite... Infinite explosion immunity, bombs materialized, and you have a wand that has Holy Bomb on it, take that Holy Bomb, put it in your inventory, you can throw... Well, you probably want fire immunity as well, that's the one I was thinking of. You can throw holy hand grenades constantly, once every second. You see where the fun is there? You know? Throw in holy hand grenades constantly, that it won't hurt you. Holy hand grenades don't collapse roofs either, so for the entertainment value, it's a solid B. Electric immunity, not as powerful as the other immunities. I'd say it's a solid C. There's an increase in the update, especially in Hisi base, with electric damage. Some of the light fixtures now do lightning problems for the metal around. Yeah, there's not enough lightning in the game to make this a huge problem. I'm going to bring this one in at the same time. Electricity. You essentially become an electric immune electric conduit. So if you're standing on metal or in water, you will send electric pulses around everywhere, doing harm, exploding things as well. I think this, although it has extra utility, I think it might be a D because it requires you to have explosion immunity. Anything that requires you to have something else to become safe. I want to rank that one down a little bit for that. I think this is a lot more just a nice, safe option. Yeah, I mean, if you do have explosion immunity, then hey, this is quite nice, but I'm going to rank explosion immunity higher because it's the useful perk. This isn't the useful perk on its own, so I'm not going to rank it with the speculation that you're going to be taking explosive perk. You know what I mean? I mean, you shouldn't have to pick up another perk to make it useful. That's my caveat, so I think it's a solid D. The explosions will happen very quickly. And the electricity will be quite a distraction as well. Rat perk, Rat King. We're gonna have a little look at this rat. Look at him, he's a lovely little dude. He's so cute. But rats, whenever you kill enemies, you will spawn friendly rats. However, if you're berserked, if you have berserk potion on your cape, the rats will become angry and start hurting you. But what I learned on no hit runs, rat perk, hey, it's actually pretty damn good. I think the rats scale. I think the rats become more powerful as you head downward. Or they definitely get more powerful based on something. Because they were taking out later level dudes quite nicely. But rat perk, it's quite nice. It's not great though. I see it as a nice thing to have. Kind of like, you know, never skip leg day, extra blood. It's going to do you a service, but it's got a few problems associated with it. Kind of like the electricity. It's quite nice. Just problems. There's always a problem. There's always something, you know what I mean? But rats, they'll help you out. They'll be your buddies for a little while, you know what I mean? Ooh, we have the old repulsion field. Allows projectiles to be repulsed when they come close to you. It's better than a shield, but I don't see it as an S tier. It allows you and your projectiles to be shot faster. So say you're launching a black hole. It will yeet a lot faster, you know, it'll get a lot of acceleration because of your own repulsion field. It will be repulsing your own black hole faster. But you lose accuracy because of that. However, this also repulses shots coming into you, so a lot of projectile damage just simply gets missed out, you know? It just simply misses you completely because it's so repulsed that it just yeets the entire other direction. It's damn powerful as a tool. Is it an S tier, however? It does have very nice applications, but I don't think it's not going to get you anywhere on its own, you know what I mean? I suppose, well, these four might not on their own, but I just don't see it in the same level as an explosion immunity or melee immunity, edit one's infinite. I think it's a nice assistant kind of perk, you know? It'll get you only so far by itself. And it's a nice way to remove projectile damage in a certain way. Certain shots will just get through. Like, you get shot at enough, you're just gonna get shot, you know? It's just gonna start hurting you. You can only repulse so much. Although it doesn't, like the shield, run out, you can only get so lucky. And it feels like you do need to get a certain amount of lucky with the repulsion. Revenge explosion. Whenever you get hit, you explode. That explosion does not do damage to yourself. It's quite nice. Apparently it's quite good against a boss. I don't know whether that's still the case with its new shield. Haven't been a huge user of this, mainly because of one big problem. If you get hit and you're next to an explosive, it automatically explodes. And that explosion you're next to, you will not be immune to. So, again, it's nice to take. Actually, is it? That's the question. Is it more like a teleportitis where it's just plain annoying? Is it in the same as, you know, the same nicety as Never Skip Leg Day or More Blood? Or is it a lot worse because of that potential problem when you get hit? It's also a distraction. When you get hit, you explode. You know, it's just kind of irritating to see yourself explode all the time. Although, if you don't have melee immunity and you have explosion immunity, if enemies are getting close and hitting you, you'll just kill them straight away with your revenge explosion. So I think it's a nice little D. Attract gold. I think that's a solid D again. I think it's just nice to have. It's like a Never Skip Leg Day. It's just, it does what it says on the tin. It attracts gold. It's not going to change your run. But collecting gold is quite important. Greed would always be taken. Like double money over attracting money? Absolutely. You'd want more money. You'd probably end up collecting more money through greed than you would for attract. Trick gold. Trick killing allows you to get more money. Now, trick greed, whenever you kill enemies by a mistake, like throwing a tablet at them, or collapse ceiling, or any sort of accidental damage kill, you receive more money. Now, with trick greed, you would receive even more money. I think this is, again, nice to have because you have to put in work for this. Regular greed, you're going to be killing enemies regularly. You're going to be getting double money. But trick requires effort. And it's nice to have. You're not always going to be trick killing, though. You can earn a hell of a lot of money through trick killing, though. Oh, there it is. I'm going to pull this up from the bottom because it's quite related. Trick blood money. Whenever, this is quite related to this, you see, quite similar. Whenever you trick kill, by throwing a tablet, by mistake kill, you receive gold that is coloured red. That gold heals you. That's, I don't know whether it's an S tier yet. Again, when we come back to this tier list, maybe we'll reassess it, but, oh man, that's huge. Like, if you can have entire builds dedicated to producing trick kills. Now, you think that might make trick greed stronger, but there's only a certain amount of usefulness to money. However, is there a certain amount of usefulness to HP? Staying at full HP is king, you know? Having enough HP that gives you confidence to just go running around the world, kicking ass, I think that's fine. And it's a solid A tier. You need to work with it again, kind of like Repulsion. You need to put the effort and work in, but it's going to be a nice little assistant in keeping you in good HP. Again, these do all the work for you. This just allows you to edit anywhere, which provides boundless optimism, boundless versatility. Melee and explosion do the work for you, and that work is tremendous. Infinite spells opens things up that aren't possible. So you know what I mean? All these, apart from fire and toxic, which just, they're nice. Not as needed as explosion or melee. But these you have to work with, you know? Apart from the limitation of All-Seeing Eye is only removing the shroud. It's just you have to kind of work, you have to put the effort in. But the reward is great, so it makes it a solid A. With the Repelling Cape, this removes stains from your cape really quickly. The problem with this one, though, you're going to set yourself on fire a lot. Because if you try and, you know, keep yourself covered in water, you're going to be bone dry quite a lot of the time you run. And if you don't have the fire and toxic immunity, yeah, the toxic immunity will, or the toxic liquid, sorry, will remove from your cape quite quickly. But the fire, however, the fire doesn't really act all that well with repelling. It seems to stick around on your cape for a lot longer than it should. If you try and get berserk liquid on yourself to get double damage, then that's going to be washed off quite quickly. Ambrosia, if you're trying to protect yourself, it's going to be washed off quite quickly. This has become less and less useful for myself the more I've realised its downside, and it does have a tremendous downside to it. I mean, sometimes, if you never find the toxic immunity, and you're sick of liquids being on your cape, hey, this might be a solution for you. But remember, you're going to get set on fire quite a lot. Dissolve powders allows you to dissolve powders all around the place. I think it's another solid D. It can be a problem, but it can be a solution as well. Say you don't have this one, the Drowning Perk. The Breathless, sorry, where you don't drown anymore. This will mean you no longer drown in powder. Say a load of powder comes and covers you entirely, hey, you can slowly dig your way out with a wand or two. But dissolve powders, it can leave you... If you're sure-footed with dissolve powders, good for you. But I find myself trying to land on something and then just immediately kind of falling into the dissolve powders. The powders that dissolve, and I don't see it as tremendous. The powder can act as cover. Say you jump into a load of powder. Because it only removes the stuff that's around you, it can create trenches, which can be quite nice for defense. But again, it's another nice one to have. Not too amazing, not too brilliant. Extra perk? Again, kind of got less useful as I've kind of gone through the game and gained experience. But I don't see it as a bad thing. I think it's, again, possibly akin to a crit, possibly akin to, you know, just a nice little boost. It's not, right. Extra perk is good if you find a load of F's tier being offered, a load of E tiers being offered, you know what I mean? But it offers no value in and of itself to your Noita, you know? You're just going to find an extra perk at every holy mountain thereafter. And, while that has strength, it also has a giant weakness of being a redundant perk. Now, in combination with the old perk lottery, well then, say, perk lottery, 50% of the time when you pick a perk, you will have a chance to have the perks that normally disappear, not disappear and choose another one. So, in combination with that, the perk lottery, which I am going to put it in S tier, by the way. I think it's phenomenal and has such high potential. It can fail you, but I'm not going to punish it for that failure. I think you roll the dice. This is a game about RNG, you know? If you complain about things failing, I think you're missing the point of roguelike games. But I was going to put this at a D. I thought it was just something nice, but I think it's got added value when you start getting deeper into the game and you start actually stacking up perk lotteries and then start stacking up the old extra perk, and you just go nuts on the amount of perks you can get, so it's got a real entertainment value for the more experienced player. Now, always cast allows one of your ones you currently have to have a random always cast slotted onto it. This is a real shot in the dark. Really high entertainment value in the terms that if you get the right thing at the right time, it can completely just make a run insane. It can also just ruin one of your ones. But for rolling them dice, I think it's a nice little bit. I think it's, you know, kinda on par with Bombs Materialize, that it offers a good potential, like a really entertaining potential for you to stumble upon. But it could be really good, it could be really bad, and for the highest highs and the lowest lows, I think it slots quite nicely into a B. That, again, I'm a big fan of randomly generated things in this game, or any roguelike game to be honest, and I like rolling the dice, so for my own personal taste, I think this is quite high. I think it's got that kind of entertainment value that just makes it lovely. Ooh, angry face. This makes enemies fight each other. You'll be losing gold because enemies will be killing each other off screen. There'll be a lot of anger about the place. Enemies will just be very volatile. It's got use. I think it's a nice C. Again, I think it's one to consider. Having enemies fight each other, consider it. When you're having enemies fight each other off screen, you then find the victor of that fight. That victor is weaker because they have engaged in combat with another enemy. So it makes the game relatively easier in theory, and I think it's just a nice one to have. Again, it's kind of the whole nice one to have kind of philosophy of the C's coming into play there. Same with More Love. I'm a big fan of this, mainly because one reason. It allows you to find Flash, the elusive enemy in the frozen vault on the east, on the main top world. It allows enemies to not fight each other, so you can go find your little elusive buddy, and it stops enemies picking up wands as much. So say an enemy has picked up a nuclear wand and fired it at you, it limits the amount of times that's going to happen, or just a wand in general being picked up, I think. But again, having enemies fire randomly at each other, these kind of contradict each other, but they're kind of the same value. Where enemies firing at each other make them weaker, but enemies not firing at each other stops random events that, when enemies fire at each other, they can create explosions, they can create fire, they can create oil, they can be a real pain in the ass when they start firing at each other, because it creates scene devastation, which can lead to its own problems. And Breathless? Oh, how many times have you drowned and regretted not taking this? I think it's another nice one to have. I think it's one of those that the amount for the facility of not drowning, this allows you to go on an adventure as well and do certain things that you might not otherwise be able to do. Although, again, on the top world, there's a giant lake that you might want to just go down into, and Breathless could really help you on that. Although there's other ways of traversing that giant lake, like going down into it. This one stops you from being covered in, say, bone dust, or snow, or a number of things that can be a real problem. Again, it's a nice one to take if you've got no other option. If you've got no other B, A, or S tier. This one, I mean, I think it's quite a nice one to just add into the list. Ooh, what do we have here? Extra movement. This allows your Noita to move faster. Now, if you know me, in roguelike games, you know I like my movement. You know I like to move around very quickly. Any movement in roguelike games adds offensive and defensive capability that just can't be mimicked in any other way, really. It just allows you to get into a situation quicker and deal with it, or defend yourself by removing yourself from the position that you were in danger from a lot quicker. So I see it as a solid A. This, I mean, I can't think of anything else apart from Acceleratanium that can mimic this, the potion. And this is permanent, you know, permanent increase. And the value you have of moving around faster allows you to just dominate, you know? If you've got the experience, you can put this to work. However, the increased levitation, I'm going to put it a B. I don't think the increased levitation has as much value as extra movement. Levitation is important. The amount of times you run out of levitation and get into danger is significant. But I see it on terms of extra life or slime blood or shield kind of potential, where it's nice to have, but I don't see it as vital. You can work this game with your regular levitation, and you should be fine. Ooh, bouncy. Bouncy has really grown on me. I don't see it as what other people see it as, sometimes an F, E, D. I think it's got a lot of potential beyond that. Because of its link with homing, if you get homing and bouncy, the problem with bouncy is you can't dig as well. But if you link this with homing, the projectile you're shooting will last a lot longer on screen. If an enemy is through terrain, between the projectile and the enemy's terrain, the projectile will just dig into the terrain to get to it. So you can dig with bouncy, it just requires a little bit of homing or a little bit of knowledge on how the things work. Bouncy, though, does limit your digging, so it's definitely not the top 3. Is it enough for a C, though? I think it's a nice kind of possibly additional thing to get. It's one of those that has value in having its link with homing keeps it out of the E and F, but I don't see it as, on its own, high enough to be in the C territory. I really don't. I think it's too specific. You're not going to be wanting this in a regular run, for instance. There are certain times where it might be nice, but I'm yet to be fully convinced on its own merits. However, ooh, gold is forever. Gold will no longer disappear. Now, again, I haven't used this too much because I feel confident in my own gold picking up ability anyway. I think I'm probably going to see it as the same as Trick, where taking greed is always going to be better. Taking double gold is probably going to be better than having gold stick around on the screen. Although, if you combine this with Trick blood money, so the Trick blood money never disappears, that could be really good. And although I'm trying to rank these individually for their own merits and not combination, it would be a C if I linked it with the old Trick blood money, but because it's on its own, I don't see it as better than greed, so I can't rank it on C for 2 reasons. You see, the greed, and I refuse to link it to Trick to get it up to a C, so I think it's a nice D again. Stainless armor allows you 50% damage reduction if you have no stains on your armor. Now, it is quite difficult, as you know, as we discussed with invisibility, to keep stains off you. And you have to really put in the work to make invisibility work properly. So making stainless work for that immunity. And if you get hit, you usually bleed all over yourself, like we discussed with the blood. So there's less use for this, and I see it as... it has a use, it's not an F. Because this can be used very, very late game, very highly experienced players can use this, and it can actually be a detriment to very experienced players because you take too much of this and then you can't kill yourself. There's very late game mechanics that require you to kill yourself to actually finish the game, and if you take too much of this and you've gone east-west world, east-east world, west-west world, and you've done loops and new game pluses, and you've taken too much of this, you are basically immune to physical damage, which is nice. And it does have that potential. It's definitely something you can utilize, but in a regular run, I'd say it's too difficult. Or just too finicky, or too much of a pain in the ass. Increased pushback. I know a lot of people dislike this. I think it's got merit. I think it's definitely not an F. I think we can say that with certainty. It's definitely not an S, A, or B, though. It doesn't have that much utility. So we're looking around here, the C, D, or E. Now, where does that slot in? Being able to push back enemies. The big problem. If you push back an enemy, then you're not going to be able to easily shoot them again to kill them. However, they are no longer closer to you to shoot you. So I think it's bang in the middle. I think there's positives and negatives to pushing enemies consistently backwards. Where I think, trying to compare it, there's nicer ones where you say you've got crit, just doing that 5 times damage, getting double gold. I think it slots perfectly well in. Something that's got utility, but that utility is very limited, you know? Like bouncy, there's a limited combination with it. You can probably make really good combinations with keeping enemies at bay, but again, you're going to have to work at this one, really work at it to improve and make use of it. However, we've got the old concentrated spells where this gives you pushback or less spread on your wands. It'll make your wands more accurate, but it will push you back. Sometimes the pushback can be really favourable, but this pushes you back on all wands, so that every single wand will push you back. You'll get recoil, essentially, where you can accidentally yeet yourself into a little bit of lava, a little bit of fire, a little bit of danger, just for a bit of accuracy, when you could just pick up another wand, you know, that is favourable spread. It's an E tier, in my opinion. It just doesn't provide... It's not useless. It does potentially harm you, but you can limit that harm. And you can make use out of it. You can make actual, like, you know, ones that can allow you to fly permanently with this. It's not too bad. But it's not, you know, going to set the world alight. Saving Grace. This is not an extra life. I could, in no good conscience, put this higher than an extra life. But it's probably one that's quite nice to take. Now, we're running out of space on the D's. But, again, I see the C's as solidly ones, either great entertainment, like the glass cannon, or something you're going to solidly take that's going to impact your run really quite nicely, but it's not as good as everything above it. Now, I see the D's as something nice to take, but has problems associated with it. Now, Saving Grace, when you get hit, a shot that would kill you, you get 1 HP back. So, yeah, it's not an extra life. It doesn't, you know, give you a bumper load of extra HP for an extra life, but this can, if you're near the end of a biome, this can help you just jump into that portal and get in there quite nicely, solve your problems, but it's the least favorable lifesaver, so that extra life, always a higher priority to be taken. Revenge Tentacle, much like the Revenge Explosion, so we'll look at the C list and compare it and see if it sticks around. This launches a tentacle at the enemy when you get hit. Those tentacles, however, can have problems. However, it's not like a Revenge Explosion going to explode barrels around you that easy. The tentacles can drag in projectiles you don't want dragged in. However, I see it very similar to Revenge Explosion. I think it's got the same or similar pros and cons. So I'm going to leave it at a D. Again, we're going to come back and possibly reassess this tier list, so we're getting to the final 7 now. Ooh. Non-shuffle. No more shuffle. You will no longer have shuffle ones. And that's quite nice. The fact that all your ones you find become non-shuffle, that can be utilized really quite nicely. I see it. Again, there's these are the 2 new perks in the game, along with Infinite, that were all kind of we all took notice of in the Noita community because of their impacts on certain elements of the run. But I see these 2 kind of linked as well. Even though they're very separate in what they do, they both affect ones. They both have a way of changing the game for the better. They don't really offer a negative, apart from, you know, always cast can totally make one of your wands redundant or super dangerous. However, turning all your wands into a non-shuffle has no drawback, really, so is it an A? Is it completely separate? And because of the lack of drawback you get from it, and the positive nature of having non-shuffle wands, meaning you can order the magic in your wands, I think it's an A. I think it's just pushed it up there for me, considering the lack of downside and the positivity you can pull from it. Freezing Field? Oh no. The fact that whenever you land on a liquid, it becomes solid, can drown you, I think it's an E. It has potential. It's not going to always hurt you. Very experienced late gamers can use this to just sort themselves out and stop dramatic health drops. Like, if you're dunking lava or acid, then it really saves you. But the problems with this, when an enemy shoots you, you'll release blood. So blood will get splattered everywhere. A lot of that will freeze around you, and you will get stuck in position, allowing the enemy to shoot you again and again and again and again. It's a big problem. So I'm going to leave it as an E. Move on to enemy radar, which will show enemies on the screen where they are. I find both enemy radar and one radar not a waste of space, but you're going to want to explore anyway, in a way, you know? You're going to want to be able to hunt out and find things regardless. The whole point of going through a biome is to explore it for good stuff. Yeah, if you're told where ones are, fair enough. It doesn't offer that much advantage, though. I see it as a distraction that spreads little coloured dots where the enemies or ones are around you. In fact, I think one radar might be a D and enemy radar an E. They can be put to work, but they're so limited in value that it's a distraction from what you should be concentrating on or trying to concentrate to get better at. So I think they're pretty suitable in the D and E, respectively. I forgot what that one is. Oil blood? Oil blood. Well, you will leak oil when you get hit. It's a solid E, maybe even a solid F. I see no point in ever picking this up. I mean, when you get hit, release oil. That oil can be set on fire. Yeah, if you've got fire immunity, maybe it's a positive one, but looking at this on its own, I haven't just gone onto the wiki, this has a 40% explosion resistance. That makes it an E for me. I mean, 40% explosion resistance is nice. However, that explosion will probably take the majority of your life still anyway, so it's limited use. I mean, what I've just learned keeps it out of the F. Because pissing oil everywhere, why can't it be fire resistance? 40% fire resistance, you know? That makes a lot more sense when you're pissing oil. Oil burning is not explosive damage, it's fire damage, so it doesn't really correlate. Exploding corpses, enemies you kill will explode. Simple as. Can set off barrels, can create chain reactions. An interesting one, but I think it's another E for me. Again, you see the majority of perks are underpowered, so you're going to be having a harder time now, especially with some of the new perks that have been added, like Leggy, Wand Experimenter. I mean, some of the new perks are higher tier, but you've got a lot of new gold as well. So, like, you've got gold permanence. I suppose trick blood money. Depends how you're feeling that day with trick blood money. But we got one last little perk: increased levitation, increased gravity, decreased gravity where gravity is reduced. Sounds good, but it's really not. You just end up floating around like an idiot. It's a sitting duck and a sitting target. Hold on, ma. Oh no. It's gone out. Let me just squish. There we go, a good squish. But, do you agree with the list? With the things where they are? I mean, I had to put the old anti-gravity perk in E. Again, I just feel like you're left floating around like an idiot. And the complete list is wonderful. I like it. I like where I put everything for the meantime. Again, this was done on the fly, reacting to things just through a gut reaction and slowly thinking about it as I was talking about it. Oh, do you agree with the list? Do you like where I put them? Do you have any questions? Do you have any things you want to point out where you think it's an error or you think it's a really good spot where it is? Do you agree? Disagree with the list? Let me know down in the comments. Also, we stream live at twitch.tv/Let's Suffer Together. Links in the description. And thank you for watching all the way through. I've been Suffer of Let's Suffer Together. If you liked the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Come check us out on Twitch. That's always a good place to start, where we provide interactive Noita entertainment nearly every day. And check out the other series we do with Undermine, Enter the Gungeon, all good things. But keep on enjoying Noita. I'll be out there, here on YouTube, there on Twitch. But until next time, my friends, you take it easy, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch up with you in the next episode. See you later, guys.